But with that, folks, it is 9 a.m. Member or co-chairs Alioto, Pierre, and Barnes. Our first interview candidate is here. I will shut up and let you take it from here.
Great. Thanks so much, Bobak. Welcome, everybody, to the first interviews in the DCCC 2024 election cycle. Just very quickly, just to run through some details, I am your co-chair, along with Carrie Barnes. Member Cedric Akbar will be our timekeeper today. It will run 1 minute of each interview for the Board of Supervisors will be 10 minutes in length. The first minute will be an opening statement, followed by 8 minutes of Q&A, and time permitting, another last minute to wrap up. If the Q&A goes longer, then that will unfortunately go to the sideline. We'll be taking questions in order that they are received in the chat from members of the DCCC. So please write the word stack if you'd like to ask a question, and we'll just call the first name. So first come, first serve. And make sure that you wait if you want to, for example, ask a question in D3, make sure that you wait and you see that it says D3 questions and then start stacking under that so that there's not a confusion. The final thing is that because all of the time will come out of the candidate, make sure that your questions are limited to 45 seconds so that we can use most of our time for the candidate's responses. And so with that, let us start with District 1. I'd like to welcome our supervisor, Supervisor Connie Chan. Hi there, Supervisor. If you'd like to start with a 1-minute opening statement and get this going. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chair Alioto Pierre. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Connie Chan. I'm currently District 1 Supervisor representing the Richmond. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be with you and answer the questions that you may have. I am a first-generation immigrant. I've been a legislative aide and aide to city departments for the last almost 2 decades now. I started off as a legislative aide to Supervisor Sophie Maxwell, and then also aide to then our district attorney, Kamala Harris. I have worked in different city departments. My last position before I run for election or run for supervisor was aide to then Assembly Member Kevin Mullen. I am so honored to be able to run for re-election again and in this time. It's important to see that the work that I have done and then to see that my commitment to continue that work to protect tenants, support small business, and continue that movement with our labor partners. And this time around, I have the unanimous support from our San Francisco Labor Council, and I hope to earn your support again.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. So let's start with with just a general. You've been in office for the last 4 years. You've clearly done a lot for the city and county of San Francisco. If you could give us an idea of what some of your what accomplishments you're most proud of, and what you see, what you would like to have accomplished in the next 4 years were you to be reelected.
Thank you. I know that we really tackle as a city, even a city that really is a very, very wealthy city, we tackle with issue of homelessness. And I really firmly believe that the one of the best way to solve homelessness is to prevent it from happening at first place. It's a reason why I have always prioritized tenants' protections and tenants' rights. And one of the legislation that I have both co-sponsor and then also in the second version, led as a lead author, is really the tenants union. Tenants at union at home. What it is to support tenants of any building with 5 units and more. And this is really geared toward corporate landlords and making sure that these tenants had the opportunity to form a union to do collective bargaining for their rent increase, for a safe living environment, and to make sure that they have rights as tenants to continue to move forward as a union. And that the second version that I have added to actually passed unanimously at the board was also to make sure that we have monolingual support, support to monolingual tenants to make sure that there's a time for interpretation and translation. Of course, I also have legislate legislation to support small business, including a neighborhood anchoring business, to make sure that we also support not just the legacy business that have been around for 3 decades and more, but also those that have been around 15 years and more. Because we know that pandemic was very difficult for a lot of business, small business that have been around for quite some time, and we really want to make sure that they continue to stay and thrive. Last but not least, I just want to highlight the last one as the board's budget chair. Time and time again, we see that it's been a very difficult budget time for us with tax revenue down and budget deficits continuing to widen. And it was my job, and it's continued to be my job, at least for the rest of the year, to really make sure that we continue to fund essential services for the city's most vulnerable. And those are the work that I really want to continue to be doing if and when reelected. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Supervisor. Vice Chair Barnes.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Connie Chan, Supervisor Chan, for being here. And we kind of skipped over our introduction. So really quick, I love you, Michaela. I'm just going to share with the group. I'm Vice Chair Carrie Barnes, and I'm honored to serve as co-chair of the Endorsement Committee with member Elliott O'Peer. I look forward to interviewing supervisor candidates today who are seeking the endorsement of the San Francisco Democratic Party. With that, I'd love to ask you a question, which is, although overall crime, it's a little specific to the district level, although overall crime has decreased citywide, incidents of burglary and motor vehicle theft in District 1 are relatively unchanged compared to the same time last year. If elected, what would you do in your second term to address this?
I think that there's the reality that while the safety data is saying that, in all over San Francisco, it's down. I know for certain, especially among the Asian American elders, that the feeling of being safe, it's not there. It is important to not just seeing the data saying that we're safe. It is also very important to feel safe, that we can get out there and do our daily life and without fear on our streets. I would say that at the end of the day, given the fact that we have such a budget deficit, I want to quote my mentor and former boss and our former DA, Kamala Harris, that it is not about being tough on crime or soft on crime. It is really about being smart on crime, and what is it that we can do strategically, and making sure that our resources and our funding go to the most important and that most effective, I should say, for our police department and for our law enforcement, because our police department it's one of the very key partner, but it's not the only partners in the entire cycle of criminal justice system, and to make sure that we're safe. So how can we make sure we fund the entire system in a way that really makes sure that in every way, be it contact to the victims at the time that incidents happen, or that when it's time to make sure that people are being held accountable, but also for a sustainable and long-term solution to make sure that we truly deliver safety, and for the people that actually have paid their dues to the society and being held accountable, that there are ways that to help them to actually return to our communities and be really productive and be part of the community. And I think we need to fund all those things to make sure and support and provide resources for the entire system to make sure that we are safe for the long term. And so I will continue my work that in the last 3-4 years now to make sure that we continue to fund our public safety system comprehensively and as a whole. And I want to continue to do that. As I think that at the end of the day is that also to make sure that every single public safety partners have the technology, the resources, and the tools that really get them there. And I think that is, be it for our police officers, our sheriff's department, or our firefighters and our nurses, they're all very critical part of the entire public safety system. So that's really has been my work, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. So if you were elected, if you were reelected, what are the 1 or 2 things that you would really like to champion that you have not yet championed for the next 4 years?
Thank you. I've been thinking about that a lot, because it's also thinking about now we are about to go on legislative recess and just wrap up our budget. and I've been very immersed in budget, and I'm thinking about policies work and what is it that we could do immediately when we return to office. Is that I know that we have been investing a lot of monies, both in public dollars, and you see that developments all around town, especially the $300 million for affordable housing bond that I supported in March, and it was approved by voters. And again, I am a supporter, strong supporter of the regional bond, upcoming regional bond in this November, to make sure that we have those fundings to support and build affordable housing. But I know that what happened is after affordable housing is built, any type of units is built, it's very challenging to get them as a lottery system. And I hope, even when I return, that I will be able to work on a system that actually deliver housing in a timely fashion, especially when they're actually available to our residents.
Okay, wonderful. Vice Chair Barnes, quick question, or shall I move to allow the supervisor to have her final?
I think we have to move on to, thank you. I think we have to move to final conclusion given the time. Yep.
All right, Supervisor.
Thank you, Chair Alito-Peer, and then thank you, Vice Chair Barnes. I really, again, very grateful for this opportunity. I know that it's really a critical time for the city. We are in crisis if we don't manage this moment in a way that with the mind of the interest and the best interest of all San Franciscans, because the budget deficit is continuing to loom and it's ballooned bigger and bigger. I really hope that I will have the opportunity to continue my work as not just maybe not as a budget chair, but really at least as a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I am the only Chinese Americans and the Asian American member on the Board of Supervisors. I also want to continue to represent our community as a member of the Board of Supervisors. I really hope to have your support, but most importantly, I also look forward to the support from you as I believe that we align to believe in the labor movement. I have the unanimous support and endorsements and early endorsements for the San Francisco Labor Council is because we believe all the problems that we see, be it public education, public health, and poverty, it really is a moment for the labor movement to take place in San Francisco and continue to have that stronghold so that we can recover for not just some San Franciscans, but all San Franciscans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. Thank you for being here with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry, this is Malia Cohen. Good morning, everyone. Will there be an opportunity for us to ask candidates questions?
Mom, touch the
Yes. What you need to do is you need to write the word stack in the chat, and then we will be able to call people when we see them listed.
Okay, apologies. I'm old school. I just wrote.
No. Sorry about that. I didn't see your hand, but we're trying to do it first come, first serve, and if everybody raises their hands, then we won't be able to tell.
Does that mean I can go, Michaela?
Well, we are unfortunately at time, and we need to move to the next.
I want to make sure that I answer Controller Cohen's question, and that if it's not this time, I'm happy to also answer your question anytime, Controller Cohen, and it's good to see you, and you have my cell phone, and happy to answer those questions.
And it is nice to have you here, Controller. Why don't you quickly ask your question, and we'll give you one more minute to wrap this one up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My question is longer than 1 minute. I want to respect the time. I'll just follow up with the supervisor.
Okay, lovely. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you, committee, and thank you, Controller Cohen. I will talk to you soon. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, Executive Director. Now we are preparing for Jen Nasikoff.
He is being promoted up now.
Hi, can you see me and hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Hi.
Hello, Ms. Nasikoff. Welcome to the interviews for the DCCC. we'd like to start. My name is Michaela Alioto-Peer. I'm your co-chair today, along with Vice Chair Carrie Barnes. Member Cedric Akbar will be keeping the time. And so with that, welcome. And we'd like to start you off with a 1-minute opening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Jen Nosikoff. I'm running for District 1 Supervisor because I believe passionately in the power of community and the urgent need that we have for visionary leadership here in the district. My background is in medicine. I'm a board certified physician assistant. If elected, I will be the only member of the Board of Supervisors with a medical background, which is going to be really valuable for our city as we navigate public health crises like overdose issues and mental health. I'm a public school parent here in the Richmond district, proud to be at SFUSD. I'm also proud to be a 2024 Moms Demand Action Gun Sense candidate and the only supervisorial candidate in San Francisco to be formally endorsed by Everytown for Gun Safety. My campaign focuses on 3 main pillars: community safety, transportation, and health equity. Now, health equity being all of the things outside of medicine that contribute to health outcomes. I'm dedicated to making our streets safer, reducing car dependency, and enhancing public transportation. Another goal of mine is to transform our neighborhood vacant storefronts into activated community spaces and advocate for responsible urban growth. Working collaboratively with government agencies, the private sector, and our residents is how we will actively and adequately address the challenges and opportunities in our district. Working together is how we get things done. So thank you for considering my candidacy, and I look forward to your questions.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today. It would be really wonderful to hear you elaborate a little bit more on what you look like the needs of District 1 are, what you think the priorities are in the district, and how you would go about effectuating change to make those things happen.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do think the needs of District 1 are more specific than sort of the needs of the city at large. And talking to different people are going to answer this question differently. And so I don't think there isn't one key thing that's going to magically affect the district. You talk to Asian seniors that they don't feel personally safe. You talk to business owners and property owners that are concerned about break-ins, and then you talk to parents. I talk to a lot of parents that are really concerned about traffic violence in the city and not doing enough to keep our kids safe physically in the street. And so those are some of the sort of the biggest issues that I've identified. And I apologize, was the second part of your question
how you think you'd be able to, as a member of the Board of Supervisors, how would you go about making these changes? Like, what would the priorities be, and how would you do it?
A lot of it is building relationships and working together. I think a lot of the reason that things don't get done in the city is because people aren't great. They're not always great at working together. I have seen it done really, really well, and that's encouraging and inspiring. And I like to find and lift up and celebrate that. So it's a collaboration. So we need to make sure that our government is working with the private sector and individual citizens we have to approach all of our challenges sort of with everybody having opportunities and responsibilities.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Vice Chair Barnes.
Sure. Welcome, Jen. I am asking D1 candidates the same district level specific question about public safety. Just building on what you said. So although overall crime has decreased citywide, incidents of burglary and motor theft in District 1 are relatively unchanged this first quarter compared to the same time last year. So if elected, what will you do to address this? What policies would you promote? Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I want to just acknowledge everybody deserves to feel safe in the city. And I think that we have where we do have our break-ins, our car break-ins, our house break-ins, we need to be strategic with how we are policing, looking for patterns. I know I've talked to some small business owners on Clement Street, and they're like, these things always happen at 2 a.m. Can we just have police that are driving around at 2 a.m? And finding, being smart with our efforts, especially when we are in a budget deficit, especially when we are short on police staffing. We need to make sure that our police are being used most efficiently and most effectively. And when I like to use the term community safety, also when we talk about safety, because more to safety than policing. We don't have a path to victory for a safe community that does not go through the police, but there are more things that we can and need to be focusing on to help make our neighbors make the feeling of safety, regardless of what the numbers say. And things that do that are, cleaner streets are safer streets, greener streets are safer streets, activated streets are safer streets. So doing things that get encouraging engagement, encouraging community building, encouraging people to take responsibility, as well as investing in our public works department for graffiti abatement and trash pickup, it's sort of the holistic approach to safety. So I'll stop there and make sure that I have space for follow-up questions.
Okay, wonderful. I'd like to allow Hazib Amran to ask a question
Thank you,
on
Chair.
behalf of the controller. Yes.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you, and good morning to you. San Francisco has undertaken ambitious transportation projects, and when it comes to the Central Subway, to the Van Ness bus line, and then even there's this debate about the Great Highway in your district. Can you lay out your vision of the future of transportation in San Francisco, especially when it comes to fighting climate change?
Absolutely. Great question. We have to think holistically about how we're moving people to and through the district, especially as the West Side is very poised for growth and increasing density. One of my top 3 issues, so I have community safety and transportation, is huge. And reducing car dependency is fundamental to that. And I like to tell people, I'm not going to take away your car, but I'm going to try to get your neighbor on the bus. We need to encourage and incentivize public transit. I am in full support of bringing public transit train all the way out through the Richmond on Geary, the 19th, down 19th. The Great Highway, I am in full support of the measure to convert that to a park. And also with the consideration of increasing bus routes, increasing things that we have to make it easier for people to go north, south, especially our neighbors in the outer Richmond and the outer Sunset.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members? Jen, would you mind talking a little bit about education and your feelings on education? There was a ballot measure that dealt with algebra in the classroom for 8th graders. How did you come down on that? And do you have any other feelings related to?
I have a lot of feelings about education. I was a public school kid. I got my undergrad was state school out in Colorado. My kids are in public education here. Health equity. So now we've gone through community safety, we've gone through transportation and health equity. Part of health equity is access to quality education. Every kid should have access to quality education in the city, and we need to making sure that starts early and that it goes all the way through post-secondary. For algebra specifically, I think somebody had asked if I thought it made sense for algebra to be taught at 8th grade. I think if a kindergartner is ready to take algebra, option should be available to them. I don't think we should be doing anything that delays access to education and advanced opportunities for our kids that are reading at above a certain grade level, doing math above a certain grade level. We should be encouraging that. We should not have any barriers to that. When I personally got to take advantage when I was a high school student of free college education, if there wasn't a class available at the high school, and I believe SFUSD has something similar, but continuing to build on that and giving, just investing in our public schools is such a it's runs so deep for our overall health of our city.
Thank you. Member Nguyen.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question around Baby Prop C and the implementation of universal childcare. Would you be supportive of fully implementing universal childcare and making sure to protect that in the future as a supervisor?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. So Jen, you have about a minute to wrap up.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity and just for your unwavering advocacy and dedication to the values of the Democratic Party. Your work championing causes like affordable housing, healthcare access, social justice is absolutely commendable and inspires all of us who are committed to making positive change. Regardless of who you choose to endorse in this race, I look forward to working together to make sure that we put a Democrat in the White House this November. We are all here because we share a common goal to make our city, our country, and our world a better place. I deeply respect and appreciate the collective efforts we are making towards this vision. And I thank you for considering my candidacy.
Thank you so much, Jen. It was nice to have you here with us this morning. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, I am promoting up our third D1 candidate, Marjan Philhauer. Hold on, I just saw her name. The panelist. Done.
Hi.
Hi. Morning.
Good morning, Marjan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So welcome today. I will be your co-chair along with Vice Chair Carrie Barnes. Member Cedric Akbar will be taking the time. And as you know, you'll have a 1-minute opening followed by 8 minutes of Q&A and concluding with a 1-minute recap. So if you would like to start, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Marjan Philhauer. I'm running for District 1 Supervisor. For those of you who don't know about my background, I live in the Richmond. I was born here and spent some of my childhood here and grew up on the peninsula. My parents immigrated here to San Francisco in 1968. My mom came from the Philippines and my dad came from Iran, and they came here for opportunity. San Francisco represented the opportunity, the hope, and just something for their future that they were looking for themselves and their future families. And so they really raised me and my siblings to understand and to value our community, to contribute to our community. And now I'm lucky enough to be raising my 3 kids here in the Richmond. So I'm running for supervisor because I think that we need to get back to basics with our government and provide the services and support to all San Francisco residents so that they can continue to thrive here. That includes clean, safe neighborhoods. It includes access to housing that is affordable and also supporting our small businesses so that our local economy can thrive.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So the first question that we're asking all of the candidates is, if elected, what are your main goals for the next 4 years? What would you like to accomplish? What do you think would be the most important steps forward for District 1?
Thank you. So my number one priority in this campaign is public safety. I think we've talked about it on the DCCC, but also just in our neighborhoods. You know, I've been knocking on doors since the fall, and I co-founded our local small business association. So I'm regularly in contact with merchants, and public safety is definitely top of mind for folks here in my neighborhood. You know, we're seeing the severity of crime against small businesses and residents increase. And I know all of you must have read about, in last December, we had a truck drive into our local CVS to steal an ATM. And it's more than just the crime of doing that. It's also what it does to access for medications, right? For seniors and working families. So here in our neighborhood, I actually saw the site, right? And I also saw the line of seniors and residents trying to get their medications and being turned away because this truck had driven into our local pharmacy. That means that as supervisor, we need to ensure that given the severe police officer shortage, which I know has been talked about ad nauseum in campaigns, but also just in the news, that we're giving police officers the tools they need to do their jobs, and also that our department has the technologies that they need to execute on public safety. So for example, automated license plate readers that weren't implemented at the time could have been, right? And what automated license plate readers do is it reads a license plate, it can track potential perpetrators of crime across the counties. And at the time, San Francisco was the only county that didn't have automated license plate readers. We're frequently asked, well, what if it doesn't have a license plate? What if it's a stolen car? But automated license plate readers can also read the make and model. So we had that happen in December. Just less than a month later, we had a truck drive into our local bank here in the outer Richmond, a few blocks away from my house, also to steal the ATM. And then about 2.5 weeks ago, I was walking to our office on Geary in the morning, and just a few hours before, 2 vehicles had crashed into our a local merchant on 17th and Geary. So I did bump into him, and he was just at a loss. He was not insured because this was the 3rd time something like this had happened at his business. And he was having trouble kind of navigating who to call. But one of the things we found, and this is where it comes down to the relevance of local government, one of the things we found while I was talking to him, I kind of looked beyond him, and the crime occurred at 3:00 in the morning. And at 4:00, he'd already gotten a notice from the city that he could be in violation of some sort of structural law, right? And he had X number of days, right? After, the front of his building was crashed into, $50,000 in cash was stolen, $50,000 in goods were stolen, right? So he was sitting there saying, I don't know how much longer I could stay in San Francisco. I have, a store in 2 other cities, just local little markets. And I don't know if we can really, afford to keep living in a city where public safety isn't a priority. Another issue here in our neighborhood is, the police station districts are much larger than the supervisorial districts, right? Because they're not political, understandably. So what we're seeing is, while we have calls, and I 100% agree that we need more community policing, we need more footbeats, we need officers along our merchant corridors, forming those bonds and relationships with residents and merchants. But what's happening is, because we are so short-staffed, because at any given moment, a typical shift in the Richmond district has 6 officers and 3 cars. When you have a station that receives between 125 and 200 calls a day, to triage that and not have the technology and the resources, what you end up happening is you end up taking away from the community so that they're not having those relationships with police officers. And they're feeling like the neighborhood isn't safe because those officers are dealing with more violent crimes, or the other 125 and 200 calls that are coming into the station. So when we talk about community policing and we talk about presence in merchant corridors, we need to understand that even with police ambassadors that I think have been a huge contribution to the neighborhood, what we're really going to need is to bump up recruitment so that we are able to hire more police officers, given that 300 more are set to retire at the end of this year. And we're at about 1,580, 1,600 officers when we should be at 2,200. So that's one piece on the public safety. Another piece, which I referenced earlier, I co-founded our local small business association. My sister and I ran our family business for several years in my neighborhood. And one of the things, in addition to, shoplifting and other types of crime, we did experience many challenges with the city, including around permitting. So at our shop, we ran pottery classes for kids and adults, and just even getting a sink installed was very difficult, right? And we put everything we had into that business so that we could provide a place for, kids to do after school classes and for kind of recreational events for the neighborhood. And, our city should be supporting small businesses and not kind of creating more hurdles, right? We had a merchant on Balboa who was trying to open, he had Chino's Taqueria, with a burrito place, and then he was trying to open a sit-down Mexican restaurant a few blocks down. Well, because that shop used to be a dry cleaners, right? Of course, they have to kind of transition the use of the place, but it took 4 years of this neighbor continuing to pay rent, unable to get through, and a lot of lag time in trying to open this place. And now, as many of you know, and those of you who live in the Richmond know, it's one of the most popular places on the block, but it shouldn't take 4 years and negotiation with the city or one's landlord just to kind of keep the space. And so lastly, my third priority would be really it's around the relevance of government. I hold regular office hours in my neighborhood for anyone to attend. I think it's really important for the supervisor to have a district office. And when I say office, it doesn't have to be like a 4,000 square foot space. It could be a desk at the library. It could be a room in a community room. It could even be a section of a cafe, but where residents know that instead of going all the way down to City Hall and bringing all their stuff, going through security, trying to find the supervisor's office, only to find out everyone's in a meeting, that they could go into, a place in the neighborhood and get their questions addressed in a timely manner. And so I think that kind of accessibility and relevancy would be really important for a supervisor to embrace. When I go to house parties and talk to neighbors, they can't name 3 things that their government has done for them today. And I think while it's really important that San Francisco, as a strongly democratic city, fight for democratic values and ensure that we're electing Democrats to all the top of the ticket offices, we need to make that relevant to people who live here in our neighborhoods and to ensure that they know, hey, that's my supervisor. That's where I can go for help. They can help me navigate the bureaucracy of this city. And they can help ensure that this is a place where I can continue to raise my kids, where I can retire, and where we can call home for the rest of our lives.
Thank you, Marjan. I appreciate that answer. We're gonna conclude with another question from our vice chair. If you could please, answer it within a minute, okay. and then your time will be up.
I will do that.
I'm actually going to cede my question. There are a lot of interested panelists.
Okay, great. So why don't we call on Member Mahood?
Hi, Marjan. Thank you for speaking today. I just wanted to ask, so you've been a small business owner, I believe, in the past. Wanted to learn more about what you hope to do for small businesses in the Richmond.
So during the pandemic, I think there's a lot that we can do for small businesses in the Richmond. During the pandemic, through our local business association, we helped partner with other local business associations so that we could provide and communicate and help businesses apply for grants. We also raised funds from different sources in the neighborhood so that, at least here in my neighborhood on Balboa Street, several businesses there was a spike in break-ins and they needed to invest money in fixing their windows and fixing their doors. And during the pandemic, that was very difficult because the clientele had, there weren't people in restaurants, right? And there weren't people going to businesses. So I think that having someone on the board of supervisors who understands what businesses are facing every day and helping them navigate the bureaucracy, streamlining that bureaucracy ultimately, and ensuring that, they're living in neighborhoods where people can afford to live so that foot traffic, right, can keep their customer base going. So, basically it's streamlining the bureaucracy in the city. It's ensuring that they have resources to keep their businesses going and also enacting policies that keep people living here in the neighborhood so that they can stay in business.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Marjan. It was nice to have you here today.
Thanks.
With that, we will conclude this interview.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. We have a little bit of a break right now. We will, because of our buffer and because we had a candidate pull out that we couldn't schedule. So we will now be on recess until 10 o'clock when we will start our D3 discussions.
I'm going to go ahead and mute, and I'm going to try to figure out this Facebook thing. Everybody who is a panelist, stick around as a panelist and reach out to me if you need anything.
Go back, you're echoing me. And you're muted.
I repeated your message, but I sent it to everybody, including all attendees.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Cedric, were you able to get Facebook going?
I
I
am the
mean,
one.
sorry, Bobak. Sorry.
I'm the one trying to figure that out, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what changed between when I dry ran this last week and what's happened now. But our page is not showing up in the list of pages to choose, so I'm currently frantically Googling about it.
Okay. I'm always trying to figure out all that stuff. All right, I'll see you back at 10.
Bobak, I was looking at the bottom of my screen, and when I'm a host, normally it has the three dots where you could connect to YouTube right from this screen. I don't see it at the bottom of this one, but
Yeah, I see it. I don't want to troubleshoot this too much live. But we are recording, and I will have a recording to upload to the website and share with people just after the fact. But I'm just the choices are there. It's just that when it prompts me to then pick the page to stream to, The only page it gives me is my old Democratic Club, and we're not
Oh,
going.
okay. All right.
So yeah, I will continue to poke around here.
Okay.
Members of the committee, your next candidate has arrived and has also heeded our instructions to arrive early. I know you have a schedule to keep, but Mo is here and ready when you are. Mo technically don't start till 10, but I'm going to add you up now just so you can hang around.
Y'all have a long day, so I'm perfectly happy to start now.
I will leave that to the co-chairs to determine, but I figured I'd get you up and running. I'm going to go back to figuring out Facebook problems.
Hi, Bobak. We're not going to start until 10. So if you could excuse Mr. Jamil until that time.
See you later.
Thank you.
We'll see you when we see you, Mo.
Okay.
I believe your District 3 block starts now.
Welcome. I'm Vice Chair Carrie Barnes. I'm co-chair of the Endorsement Committee with Michaela Alioto-Peer. We are pleased to welcome you, Mo, as our first candidate to be interviewed for District 3. And just super quick, an overview of what to expect. There'll be 1 minute opening statement by you, 8 minutes for questions, and then 1 minute wrap up. Member Cedric Akbar is helping us keep time. So with that, Mo, can you please take the floor?
Thank you, Co-Chair Barnes, Co-Chair Alioto-Peer, and all the members of the committee for being here today. My name is Mo Jamil. I'm a 22-year resident of San Francisco, a 10-year resident of District 3. I live with my wife, Annie, and my 2 children, Oliver and Kate. I'm a proud member of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, where I've been a deputy city attorney for the last 10 years under Dennis Herrera and David Chu. I've worked with board members and the mayor in drafting complex tax legislation, as well as fighting for our public fisc to make sure we're not cheated out of taxes. But I come to this world by way of the community. I've been a neighborhood organizer in District 3. I know every neighborhood in this district inside and out, and I've been fighting for the residents and small businesses of this district. My policy platform is best aligned with the voters of this district. I believe strongly in rebuilding our public safety apparatus, our police department, firefighters, 911 operators, and I believe in sensible development in my backyard, or SHIMBYs. And look forward to your questions.
Oh, okay, wonderful. I'm going to ask the first question by Michaela, and then we're going to open up to audience. It is a little open-ended, so I trust you to tailor it appropriately. Our districts are comprised of neighborhoods and communities, as you just mentioned, so I wanted to build on that. How have you worked to build community in your district?
I was the president of the Middle Polk Neighborhood Association on Polk Street, and one of the things I did there for several years is I brought together 10 neighborhood groups and founded the Van Ness Corridor Neighborhood Council. We sat down, we worked with developers, we worked with the city, we worked with several city departments, and we built consensus to get things done. There are several housing projects that were unanimously approved at the Planning Commission because I brought people together and built consensus. So that's one way I've built community. I also held District 3 together. Myself and several other neighbors fought to keep our neighborhoods together through redistricting. Because of that, District 3 closely resembles what it looked like before and after redistricting. I've also partnered with every neighborhood, including Chinatown, to look at legislation, any kind of changes. I always have my ear to the ground and partner with communities to make sure that the residents are getting their voice heard in the process. Last thing I'd say is I've partnered with both Central Station and Northern Station as a neighborhood leader and brought them in both on Polk Street and in Russian Hill by holding safety forums and having a strong and close relationship with the police department.
Thank you. Wonderful. Member Alioto, do you have a question?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Barnes. Thanks for being here today, Mo. Nice to see you. I'm just curious, are there any projects that you are particularly proud of that you have worked on for your district? And in addition to that, if elected to the Board of Supervisors, do you have any priorities or anything that is specific to the district that you'd like to see accomplished?
One of the projects that I'm most proud of is there's a 60-unit housing development on Polk and Pacific, and it will house the new jug shop. That's a 3-generation legacy-owned business, which was going to be displaced. And through my efforts and efforts of others in the neighborhood, we were able to bring in support for a development that has 20% affordable housing, also some market rate housing, and a new jug shop. It was a win-win, and I'm proud of that. And it kept that family business in the neighborhood. My priorities are, number one, public safety. I've called for wholesale change on the police commission. That means I'm not going to be appointing as a board member anybody on the police commission that's not going to have the back of our police officers, the rank and file. And also, I want to invest in recovery. because what we're doing with respect to the drug crisis is not working. There was an article in the Chronicle today about millions of dollars going to essentially enable people to continue doing drugs. And where's the corresponding investment in recovery? So I look forward to partnering with Matt Dorsey and the recovery community in particular. So I would say safety priority and returning to sensible development and building consensus.
Wonderful. Thank you. We are going to welcome Hasib to ask the first question from panelists.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and good morning to you, Mr. Jamil. I wanted to focus my question on public education in San Francisco.
Yes.
Specifically, what the city needs to do in partnership with the San Francisco Unified School District to close the achievement gap, improve math and reading proficiencies, and making sure that no child, whether that be a student of color or a student coming from a low-income background, is left behind in San Francisco.
Yes.
So what strategies and priorities would you use to make sure that public education system in San Francisco is working for all students?
So I think number one, we need to have a culture of high expectations, and that's high expectations for every child in San Francisco. And we have to recognize that sometimes that the district and the city needs to step in to provide the social supports at home, whether that's subsidized universal childcare for younger kids, or other after schools programs like the Boys and Girls Club to build mentorship. But I believe in a culture of high expectations. I believe every child in San Francisco can succeed and nobody should be counted out. And that's why I supported Prop G to open up algebra to eighth graders. And I want to partner with my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors and on the Board of Education for their particular districts, their particular neighborhoods, and their particular needs, and give them the support that they need. And that's particularly true, I think, in the Southeast. I look forward to partnering with the District 10 supervisor, District 11 supervisor, to hear best from them. And then also in my district, in Chinatown as well, there are children who are living under very difficult circumstances and SROs, and we need to make sure that we find the social supports and financial supports for those kids as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absent other panelist questions, I will continue. District 3 has a high concentration of high injury streets. And if elected, I'd like to hear what you would recommend to create safer streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedestrian safety is a high priority of mine. I hear it from my constituents. Number one, we need to have enforcement. SFMTA and the police department have gotten out of the business of enforcement due to short staffing. That's a problem. And we need enforcement not just against cars, but also against bicycles. I've heard it from my constituents. Pedestrian safety is a huge concern. We also need to recognize the fact that some folks have to drive, and that's not a bad thing. If you're older, if you're an older adult, if you're taking care of an older adult, or you have a disability, sometimes, you need to drive, and we need to keep those people in the process. So I believe in making all modes of transportation better: biking, walking, driving, and I don't believe in pitting people against each other. And I've called for wholesale change at the MTA as well, because I think this culture of pitting people against each other is just going to set us all behind.
Thank you. Michaela, did you have a question?
Yeah. So Mo, District 3 has the wharf, and the wharf really took it hard during COVID. I'm curious to know if you have any ideas on how we might be able to bring life back to the wharf and work with the Port Commission to do so.
Absolutely. So I've been partnering with the Fisherman's Wharf Community Benefit District and the Fisherman's Wharf Merchants Association for quite some time. Al Casiato is very involved in there, and he's a supporter of mine. I think we need a wholesale economic revitalization strategy, but we need to make sure that the wharf is the strong commercial and tourism engine that's critical to San Francisco. So I think investment, I support the police specials program, because until we make sure that the area is safe, that's going to attract, that we need that to attract tourism. So that's what I would say on the wharf. I mean, I love going to SCOMA's. We need more restaurants like SCOMA's to survive. We need to bring people down there, but if people don't feel safe, And if we don't crack down on the car break-ins and whatnot, it's just bad for business. And I want to be a partner with the wharf, and I want to be a partner with the port.
Wonderful. Mo, you now have, I believe, 1 minute left, if that's correct, Cedric, for your concluding statement.
This campaign gives you a series of choices, but I am the choice that's aligned with the voters in this district. I am 100% in support of our public safety departments. I've taken the strongest line in that vein. I'm also 100% behind recovery, and that's where the residents of this district are. Overwhelmingly, Prop E and F passed in this district, and I supported both. I was the only candidate to support both in this race. And also, people in this district want city departments and our elected officials to listen to them. And they feel that they've been shut out in a lot of decisions, and we need to make sure that they don't feel that way. And I'm proudly endorsed by Supervisor Matt Dorsey, Aaron Peskin, Deborah Walker, Art Agnos, and many more. I am the consensus candidate in this race, and I urge you to endorse me.
Wonderful. Thank you. This concludes. Thank you for being here. And our next candidate is now welcome to enter.
All right.
Thank you, Mo.
Our next candidate is supposed to be Sharon Lai. However, I do not yet see Sharon in the attendees list to promote up to panelist. I did text her campaign, and so I'm going to text them again.
We'll wait a couple minutes. That's fine.
Hopefully, we'll be able to stay on track.
Do we have another candidate? Who's the next in line on the schedule?
After Sharon, we have Edward Navarro, but Edward
And
is
is he's not here yet. Okay, thank you.
told people to come 10 minutes early if they could.
Are there any other D3 candidates who are in the Zoom but not promoted to panelist?
Navarro, it is Mr. Sauter, and after Mr. Sauter, it is Mr. Susk, and I see Mr. Susk.
To be fair, Sharon's not due until 10:15.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, well,
It's true. We built that buffer in.
up, and here we go. Sharon Lai is here.
Did you want to wait until the time to start at 10:15?
I've promoted her up now. I will leave that to you. All right, and pinning
We'll
you
get
to
started in 1 minute, Sharon.
get warmed up.
Welcome.
All
Again,
right.
Sharon, thank you for being here. We are currently doing the D3 interviews along with my co-chair, Michaela Alapir, Carrie Barnes, and Cedric is keeping time. Just really quick on format. We would welcome you to do a 1-minute opening statement, followed by 8 minutes of questions, and then a 1-minute wrap up. So with that, I'd love for you to take the floor.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. So I grew up in public housing in Hong Kong and have always deeply appreciated the important role that government has in providing social safety nets and creating stable communities for everyone. That's why I've championed providing universal childcare, fighting against big tobacco and vaping, led on transportation funding measures and housing measures locally in San Francisco. It's also why I've worked for the past 2 decades professionally in building housing of all types, including market rate, affordable, homeless housing. And I've also advanced the city's safety while serving on MTA, where I tripled the public safety budget and advocating for interdepartmental collaboration. Most recently, I led on a downtown economic recovery effort through a public-private partnership to diversify our economic base and creating jobs that will really stay in San Francisco. San Francisco really deserves competent and diverse leadership, not just in demographics, but I'm speaking to expertise. I have a demonstrated track record of delivering results for our city, and I'm eager to leverage the power of this office to do more for the district and for the city. Thank you.
Wonderful. I will start with a question. Thank you. The District 3 is comprised of many neighborhoods and communities, and would love to just hear how you have built community since your time living there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I have called San Francisco my home for the past 19 years, and I have for over a decade been serving, particularly in the Chinatown neighborhood. I actually started my relationship with the city as a city planner for San Francisco and have worked on projects including in District 3. Some of them are housing related, including pedestrian safety projects. I was involved with the Broadway Street redesign project a while ago. And, you know, while in my activism within Chinatown, I have participated in many nonprofit organizations, supported their work, including CYC and their victim services. While serving on the MTA in particular, I advocated as the only API director on the board at the time, and this was during the pandemic, trying to actually reconnect the neighborhood with a lot of other neighborhoods, advocating for the recovery of community bus lines, including the 8AXBX, which connects the Bayview through District 3. I have also worked on continuing to expand community safety ambassadors throughout the district. And currently, I actually serve on the Chinese Hospital Steering Committee, as well as the working group that's working on redesigning Portsmouth Square, which is a very important community living room space, as well as a historic location for the city. I previously worked in the private sector for many years in downtown in the financial district. And that is a community that I am very eager to help revitalize. It is the city's economic engine and our front door. And that is why I had mentioned, you know, in my most recent position, I had focused my energy in trying to help recover the downtown economy, because if we don't help ourselves, you know, diversify our economic base and really try to get our economic conditions back on track within the downtown area, we can't continue to fund and finance all of the public safety and clean street measures that I know everybody in the city really wants. Just for a point of clarification, is there a time limit on the question? Should I try to keep my responses to a specific time?
No, it's nice to hear from you. It's also nice to consider when we have member questions, panelists. So Michaela will, as co-chair, ask you a question now, and then Michael Nguyen will ask a question right after. And as members write in the chat stack, we will call on them accordingly. Michaela?
Thank you.
Hi, Sharon. Nice to see you. So the question that I have for you is, you know, a big part of District 3 is the Port of San Francisco and the Wharf area. And I am wondering, you know, I liked what you had to say about Portsmouth Square. But what are your feelings about revitalizing the wharf and the role that the Port of San Francisco plays in San Francisco's economy?
Yeah, I do believe that, in the economic world, we talk about first and second order advantages, and our wharf area is absolutely one of our most valuable assets within the city. It is not just an opportunity for commerce and trade, but also really a very natural and beautiful asset that we should really be leveraging. Right now, the Port of San Francisco, along with, I'm aware that there's, Burton Act and limitations as to what we can do along the wharf, but I do see that a lot of our businesses, especially around, the northern area, are really suffering. There's a lot of vacancies. A lot of our historic businesses have been pushed out. And I do think that we need to have a proactive strategy in making sure that we're helping existing businesses that are still there really get back, into a good rhythm, as well as making sure that we are building for long-term resilience. I know that the Port of San Francisco has a portfolio management real estate team, as well as long-term plans for redevelopment. One of my areas of concern and where I think this office can really help is to continue to support and expand on financing capabilities so that we can enable the port to really thrive and be an area that could connect the region. I am somebody who comes from a background of real estate, both development and operation. And I really do think that for District 3, it is extremely important that we have someone with expertise and real world understanding of how to be working with real estate in order for us to be taking advantage of this amazing asset we have, but while also protecting small businesses that are there, as well as making sure that we are maintaining public access to this really vital resource.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'd like to move to panelist question. I believe the first one is Michael Nguyen.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
It's okay, great. My question is, how do you differentiate yourself from the other candidates in the field around housing, around building housing, affordable housing, different kinds of housing? San Francisco Democratic Party just recently declared itself a pro-housing party. So what would you say to that, and how, thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate you asking this. I think it's quite clear that I'm the only candidate in the field who's actually ever worked on housing in San Francisco. Not only have I worked on the approval side, on the regulatory side, but I've also worked on the financing construction side during the pandemic, when I saw that there was a lot of unsheltered homelessness and a lot of people were being displaced. I quit my private sector job and started a nonprofit specifically to try to help house our population, because the sidewalks should not be the location where people should be languishing. We should also not be using our ERs as well as our jail system as the revolving door. I have demonstrated the ability to cut through process and build interim homeless housing very quickly. I was able to get a permit in 2 weeks, start construction, move people in 2 months. I built it for 4 times less than the cost of a replica project that the city recently opened. And I really do believe in the public-private partnership model. I think if we can all row in the same direction, we're going to be able to advance public good a lot more effectively. I think one of the main differentiators for me within the housing space, it's not just about track record, but really my belief that we have both a supply as well as a demand problem when it comes to housing solutions. We have to continue to build housing at all levels, but we also need to make sure that we're building housing that people can afford. And now I believe that the government should really get out of the way of private markets. We should let them do what they do best. I don't think that leaning on the private markets has been effective in delivering affordable housing, which is why, as supervisor, my main focus is going to be on delivering affordable housing. That is why I've always championed housing measures, including the past March Prop A measure. I think the financing of housing is really what we have to be concerned about right now. It's not just about approvals. It's really about how do you get from approvals to construction. And again, I'm the only candidate who has actual experience and expertise in working in that area. Thank you.
Wonderful. Our next question is from Member Ho. I believe. No, incorrect. Is it Emron?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Apologies.
Thank you, co-chair, and good to see you, Sharon. So I just want to focus my question. We have one of the most famous Chinatowns in the world, arguably the most famous outside of China itself. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, and as we were emerging out of the pandemic, we saw a rise in anti-Asian hate. There's disturbing videos that kind of shock this whole city when there's attacks on elderly, whether that be purse snatching or assaults. And this was occurring in the early morning, daytime, and even sometimes in the nighttime. So if you were elected supervisor, how would you use your platform to restore a sense of confidence and safety in Chinatown and make sure their residents feel like they have a sense of belonging in their own community?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Public safety is very personal to me. I'm someone who's been attacked before. I've been attacked on Muni, and that was actually the reason that motivated me to join MTA and why I focus so much on addressing public safety within my capacity there. During the time that I was serving on MTA, it was during the pandemic, so a lot of the anti-Asian hate was very, very salient, which is also why, right when I started on the board, I was advocating for transparency and information. I realized that, MTA didn't even have crime data. Is that 10 minutes or 10 seconds? Sorry. So I was able to partner with the San Francisco Police Department to make sure that we're rebuilding relationships so that we can actually even get their information. I believe in fully funding our police department and continuing to lean on providing community policing and having eyes on the street. That is how people will feel safer, by having a holistic approach to public safety and making sure that people know each other and that we have safety officers and ambassadors on our streets.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We went a little bit over.
Okay.
I'm going to now
Apologies.
hand it back to you, Sharon, to make your concluding statement.
All right.
Thank you.
Can I ask my question?
Well, unfortunately, no, Lily, because we went a little bit over. We have, well, let me see. We have a little bit of buffer. I mean, if we're going to, Sharon, would you mind could you accommodate and make like a really brief conclusion if Lily asks her question?
Could I first make my closing, and then if we have time, I would love to address more questions, or I can write a written response back. I would love to have the equal opportunity. Would that be okay, Chair?
Well,
thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. I'm going to go ahead and make my closing statement. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so San Francisco has been my chosen home for the past 19 years. And my two kids, this is the only place that they know to be their home. I'm running for, District 3 seat to help focus on solving problems, and so that San Francisco remains a welcoming place for everyone and where inclusive shared prosperity is possible. I intend to do that by continuing to be who I've always been, someone who believes in the Big Tent approach, the power of convening and bringing people along. I'm proud to have been endorsed by 8 of the current supervisors, several of the state representatives, as well as my many local organizations and local unions and community leaders. Thank you for your consideration. I'm going to keep this short so that I could hopefully get to Member Ho's question. Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate the brevity. And thank you for allowing me to ask this question, Vice Chair Barnes. So this actually dovetails off of the conversation that Amran had asked around public safety. Public safety is my number one priority. It has been the number one priority for most of San Francisco in every district, and then particularly dovetailing off of the anti-Asian hate that we've seen in recent years. Now, one of the things that I see different from your candidacy versus the other candidates in the race is that—
question quicker. It's supposed to be 45.
Oh, okay. You were yes on B and no on E versus all the other candidates.
You have to just make it really quick.
Okay.
If we're going to accommodate it.
Thank you. Can you please explain why your position stands the opposite of the rest of the city on public safety on your positions on yes on B and no on E?
On E, I'll address that in reverse order. On E, I have more full response on mission local that we've all addressed. I am very much I believe in providing the tools that the police department needs to be effective. I do believe that we could have also achieved that by passing laws at the local level at the supervisors level without putting it as a ballot measure. I did have concerns about enabling basically encouraging high-speed car chases, which I have spoken with police officers, and that is a concern of theirs too. But I'm not opposed to police technology. In fact, I've advocated for technology, the use of technology, even while I was on MTA. On the question of Proposition B, that is not the measure that I felt completely comfortable with. There were issues with it that I certainly disagreed with, and it's not the way that I would have written it. At the moment in time, that was the only measure in front of us that would have actually increased police staffing. And I understand the interpretation that I think the popular understanding now is that people are associating it with a tax. That was not my initial intent or understanding after talking to the campaign team. I do not believe that we should be increasing taxes in order to provide basic public safety. Happy to chat more offline.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
We're moving to our next panelist.
Thank you.
Okay. Go back.
All right. We got Mr. Edward Navarro, who is right here.
Edward, welcome. There we are. Can you see us?
Yes, thank you, Member Barnes.
Okay, fabulous.
Good to see you.
Welcome. We're here with co-chair Elliot O'Peer and Cedric Akbar is our timekeeper.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. We're running it the following way. We'll invite you to have a 1-minute opening statement, 8-minute member questions. Members, remember, questions should be brief, 45 seconds. We'll leave it up to you, Edward, to tailor your answers appropriately, and then a 1-minute wrap up. So with that, please take the floor. You have 1-minute intro.
Thank you, Member Barnes, and thank you, everybody, for your time today. I'm Eduardo Navarro, running for District 3. I come from architecture and finance with a specialty in urban design. And as an entrepreneur, I've always run my own show. This is my first time becoming part of government. I don't come from governments or nonprofits. The freshness of being able to see San Francisco in a light of just having been here 2.5 years permits me to see what's, I think, very special about San Francisco. And I think it's a place where everybody can be who they want to be. I think that's something to cherish, to protect, and to defend, especially in light of national and international political scene. And so it's tantamount to us as San Franciscans to unite and make sure that we have a very successful story. On the practical side, I think architecture and finance are very useful and practical for a couple of the things that are affecting the city quite consistently, which is, for example, the dearth of housing. My differentiation from other candidates in that light is that I do come from investments. So I very much about pro-business and making sure that we're able to build efficiently and affordably. But at the same time, I come from design. So the part about we can do this in a very sensible way and having a very robust discussion about architecture. Thank you.
Fabulous. Edward, I will invite Michaela to ask you the first question.
Okay.
Hello, Edward.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. Hello. The question I've been asking everyone is something sort of near and dear to my heart in District 3, which is about the wharf and the Port of San Francisco. The Port of San Francisco is a big part of what District 3 is. The wharf is a huge economic generator for the city, but it's really hit some tough times. Do you have any thoughts on how you might be able to bring life back to the wharf and how the Port of San Francisco might be able to help with the economic regeneration of the area?
Fantastic. As most contemporary cities have moved into containerization, the utility of the port as an actual port of trade has been displaced, and the same as in New York and many other places. Here we have it in Oakland. So today, it gives us an opportunity to harness that legacy from a storytelling and architectural perspective to create vibrant neighborhoods that have 24-hour 7 residents. And I think that's something that we're missing both in the port and in the wharf. The wharf is telling that there's no neighborhood association, but rather only a merchants association. I think there's a lot of space in terms of ground and also architecturally. There's a very nice way to add housing and to make it a vibrant part of the city. It is also one of the one of the places seen most affectionately by tourism. And from my experience in Spain, which is my home country, there's 90 million tourists that visit Spain every year. That's the second or third, depending on the year that you get it. So there's many examples that we can look at in terms of how to develop places that are both attractive for tourism, but also sustainable locally. And I would say those are both. I mean, the lure of a port is incredible, and it's not something that we can lose, but rather something that we can hang on to dearly. If we have a robust discussion about urban design, architecture, and livability in those places.
Thank you.
Sure.
Seeing no other panelist questions, I will ask you one. What do you believe is the most pressing issue in District 3, Edward? And if elected, how would you confront it? How would you try to solve it?
Well, I think the issues of District 3 are similar to it's a microcosm of the rest of the city. And I think the most pressing issue is that we don't feel good about the city currently. And that goes to several ideas. We don't feel good because people feel unsafe. We don't feel good because the streets aren't clean, because there's a sense of decay, because there's a sense of abandonment of the retail spaces, emptiness in the commercial corridors and also in office spaces. So I think the very first thing we need to do is to address that. And I think we have to address that by changing the paradigm in terms of how we think about our streets and our public space. And we tend to think that homelessness and not being unhoused is the alternative is binary, and it means the street. And we try to attend to these issues on the street as though it was an open air hospital sometimes. I think we have to be much more sophisticated about how we treat open space, and we have to basically say no to a permanent and unusual occupation of that space. We can do this very humanely. And I think if we start looking at the unhoused portion of the city, we can understand that there are persons that have fallen into hardship, temporary or circumstantial hardship. And I don't think any of us would be against a process of temporary to permanent shelter where people can actually find their way again and become part of society. There is another component of the unsheltered space, which are people suffering from disabilities in the sense of mental health or substance abuse, but where there's not a full control of one's faculties. And I think we threw the baby out with the bathwater when we took away institutions for all the reasons we know of the abuses that came with them. But I think we've gone beyond that, and there's a place that very humanely we can create institutions back in the city to open up the streets back to public space, and also to create a physical barrier between dealers and other things with persons that need assistance. Now, I don't know the first thing about mental health, and I don't know the first thing about substance abuse, but I do know that there are professionals that have dedicated their entire professional careers, and I think we can put them in place and also hold them accountable to get people better, just not on the street.
Wonderful. I believe we have time for one more question prior to your 1-minute wrap up. District 3, and I'll ask it, seeing none in the chat. District 3 has a large concentration, unfortunately, of high injury streets. So I would love to hear from you about transit and safer streets, and if elected, what you would do.
Great. So as I mentioned, I come from architecture and finance. I studied at Georgia Tech, then I was in Paris, then I was in New York at Columbia University, and my studies were concentrated on urban design. We talk a lot about driver behavior, and we try to limit that with rules, regulations, cameras, and other technology, which is one tool that we can use. There's a whole other tool that we can use, which is urban design and the physicality of our streets. We seem to be so involved in some of the issues that are so pressing that we forget that many of our streets are paved with concrete. They're broken. They have issues structurally. They have also, for example, the light and power hangs from wires. So there's a whole world of improvement that we can work on of the streets beyond also daylighting and other sort of time-tested methods to make sure that pedestrians are safe, in order to make those intersections much more viable. This is a very ardent question in urban design, and something that I think we could all have a very not only productive but fun discussion as to how we can make our streets even more attractive and safer from a pedestrian perspective.
I'm not sure if Cedric marked the time, but you have 1 minute wrap up now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, thank you everybody for your time today. I am the newer candidate in District 3. I do believe I can bridge between progressives and moderates in a very productive way because I think our main thing should be to have a united San Francisco and a very successful San Francisco because we go way beyond our borders and we want to make sure that this is a beacon for people nationally and internationally. I claim that I know how to put 82,000 units in the city without anybody noticing. That's appealing to the progressives because I say we don't have to build skyscrapers, and I truly believe we don't have to build skyscrapers on the water to get there. At the same time, I am very pro-business, and I think we can create a whole slew of development, both affordable, market rate, working families, and the rest of it, that not only gets the affordability where we want it to be, but also allows first responders and professionals to live in the city in a very strong way and to allow for community policing and a more tight urban fabric. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I look forward to continuing being in contact with all of you, which I think we see each other every other day or every few days. So thank you again.
Thank you and good luck.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
So we now have a break until 10:55 for our next candidate.
All right, we'll resume at 10:55 with Mr. Sauter. Mr. Sauter, promoted you a little bit early, but we'll see you get started right at 10:55.
Okay, I'll be ready at 10:55. Thanks.
Perfect. All right, folks, let's come back together and right at 10:55, Carrie, you can continue.
Roger. Welcome, District 3 supervisorial candidate, Danny Souter. I'm just going to go over format, what to expect. We'd like to invite you to do a 1-minute opening, followed by 8 minutes of questions, and then a 1-minute conclusion. And with that, please take the floor, Danny.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for the opportunity and your time this morning. My name is Danny Sauter. I'm a candidate for District 3 Supervisor. And I'm asking for your support and your endorsement so that I can put my deep record of community organizing in District 3 to work for the residents of District 3 and for all of San Francisco. A quick background to share. I have been a neighborhood organizer in District 3 for the last 10 years. That starts with serving as the president of my neighborhood association, where I've led on projects like starting a community farmers market, supporting 50 restaurants during the worst days of our COVID pandemic by raising $250,000 for those restaurants, holding monthly community meetings and town halls to make sure that we bring more neighbors into organizing and into the civic engagement process. Professionally, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit. It's a network of 8 community centers around our city. 2 of those centers are here in District 3, Cameron House and Chinatown, where I support them. And I've also been very active in Democratic Party club leadership, serving as the District 3 director of Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club. And I see that's the time, so I'll leave it there.
Wonderful. What would you do if elected to encourage business growth, considering the high vacancy rate in your if elected to be district? Thank you.
Yes, it's a really important question. We do have a lot of vacancies and we have a lot of area for growth. And, whether that's downtown where we still have a 40% office vacancy rate, or even more so in the neighborhoods. You look along Polk Street in Russian Hill, in Lower Nob Hill, Sutter and Post, we have a lot of vacancies. For those small businesses, it needs to be easier to open a small business in San Francisco. We make it unnecessarily hard. I know that from firsthand experience. I've started 2 businesses in District 3. I've seen where rules and regulations just are outdated or they don't make sense. They need to be streamlined and reorganized. For those larger businesses, I think everything has to be on the table. I think we have to be going out and actually recruiting businesses to San Francisco. Probably the first time in a while we've had to do that. But that's where we are as a city, and we need to make sure that our economy gets back on track.
Elliot up here.
Hi, Danny. Nice to see you. So actually, kind of dovetailing off of that a little bit, you are District 3. One of the most important things within District 3 is the Port of San Francisco and the wharf. Pre-COVID, the wharf was considered the second or third largest tourist attraction in the United States, and we've really seen a hit. So I'm just sort of curious what you think. We've got an enterprise zone being the port, we've got San Francisco being the city. How do we bring those 2 different entities together to strengthen the wharf? And what are your thoughts on the Port of San Francisco and its future?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think this is critically important, and I do see this as a role of a supervisor, is to bring those different parties to the table. Fisherman's Wharf, Union Square, those key tourist hubs in our city, all sit in District 3. And I think, as I speak to small businesses in the wharf or tourism leaders in our city, I think everyone agrees that the wharf needs some love. It needs some reimagination. We certainly need to polish it up and make it the attraction that it once was. And I do see that as the role of a supervisor, is to coordinate those efforts and to bring those folks to the table. I think it's going to take some short-term work, whether that's focusing on the basic cleanliness and safety there. That's, of course, important for our visitors, but it's also important to our workers. I've talked to merchants in the wharf who are really worried early in the morning for their early employees to actually show up to work. But it also takes long-term work, and that's things. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't know if I was at time. I'm sorry. I'm hearing something.
No, you're not. You can finish your.
Okay, I'll finish up very quickly. What I was going to say, it also is going to take some long-term work. We have areas around Fisherman's Wharf which have some of the largest retail vacancies in all of San Francisco as you go along Bay Street and North Point. And I think the future of Fisherman's Wharf is always tourism. It's always honoring our maritime usage, our Italian heritage of the fishermen's there. But it also is going to include some more housing around the fringes of Fisherman's Wharf and long-term work like connecting the wharf to the rest of San Francisco. And I see that as a key opportunity with extending the Central Subway to be a North Beach stop and then a Fisherman's Wharf stop as it originally was planned.
Wonderful. I believe Bilal has a question. Thank you.
Hi, Danny. Just want to know, what is your involvement and history in Chinatown?
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a really important question. For District 3, I think anyone who raises their hand for this seat has a responsibility to share their record of advocating for the diverse communities of District 3. And so much of that is our API community, it's Chinatown, it's our Chinese Americans all throughout Chinatown, North Beach, Nob Hill, throughout our district. And so I weigh that responsibility heavily. I personally have been taking Cantonese lessons for the last 5 years, and I've taken those both at City College and where I've learned and supported the Save Cantonese movement, but also online and just, in everyday conversations. And I'm certainly not fluent, but it's about, putting in that time to lower barriers between myself and other residents to make sure that I can advocate for our Chinese American communities. I'm very proud of the work that I've supported at Cameron House, which is a incredible nonprofit in Chinatown that is this year celebrating 150 years. Where I've worked to expand our programs, specifically serving older adults. District 3 actually has the highest concentration of older adults of anywhere in San Francisco, and the needs of older adults and seniors are most acutely felt by our populations who are bilingual or monolingual within Chinatown.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll ask you another one. I did ask other candidates as well. Unfortunately, District 3 has a large concentration of high injury streets. If elected, what would you do to create safer streets, Danny?
Yeah, it does, and we know where those streets are, right? And so we've studied it, we've seen it, we've seen incredible loss on our streets, and now it's time to do something about it. Particularly we have areas of Lower Nob Hill that act as freeways to downtown, and that needs to change. We need to slow down traffic there. We need to make it safer to walk throughout District 3, particularly in some of the more congested, dangerous areas. I see this as an opportunity to strengthen public transit. We have to do the short-term infrastructure work with bulb outs and daylightings, which we know are proven tactics to improve safety in District 3. But long-term, we've got to make it more accessible, more reliable, more attractive to take public transit. And I'm really disappointed that over these last 20 or so years, we just haven't had much improvement of support for public transit in District 3. We need more rapid bus lanes. We need to do the long-term work on the Central Subway. We need to bring back bus lines like the 41 and the 3 that are still out of commission. So that would be my focus related to making it safer to walk in San Francisco in District 3 and also to take public transit.
Okay, I think if you answer, we end at 11:05. So you have 1 minute concluding statement. I have a super quick question.
Sure.
What is the most pressing problem in your district? And if you could answer it really quick and then go on to your conclusion, that would be fabulous.
I think the most pressing issues in District 3 line up with the rest of the city. It's affordable housing, it's public safety. But I would say the specific kind of wrinkle to that within District 3 is that we have some of the most challenged neighborhoods at the moment related to the fallout still from the pandemic, the need to reimagine downtown. We talked about, the Wharf and Union Square, even Chinatown, North Beach, which are really tourism drivers. So the needs are similar, but I think in specific ways more acute in District 3 to some of the geographical neighborhoods that are still recovering from the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. And if you wanted to take your concluding statement now, thank you for being here. That would be fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to seek the endorsement and for all the questions. As I shared, I'm hoping to get into office to put my 10 years of community organizing in District 3 to work for San Francisco. I've had the privilege to have thousands of conversations and knock on thousands of doors. And I think, like all of you, the message is very clear. We love San Francisco. We want to be proud of it. And I think the best way to be proud of it is to get better results, and that involves putting new folks into office. It's putting people into office who have deep records in District 3. This is a set of neighborhoods that I think deserves to be honored. Their history deserves to be honored and listened to and supported, and that's going to take someone who has a track record in the district, right? Someone who's been here and is not showing up at election time or moving to the district to run for office. I think that's something that District 3 deserves. I think District 3 voters deserve people who have been involved throughout the most difficult days of the pandemic. I'm very proud that I would be only the second renter on the Board of Supervisors, would be the youngest member of the Board of Supervisors, and I'm hoping to bring that experience to City Hall and to the District 3 seat. And again, thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you, Danny. We're going to move to our next panelist now.
So we had a slight typo in the schedule, and we have Matthew Susk scheduled for 11:15, which is a slight buffer. You can take him up earlier if you like. My understanding is he is here, and that just leaves you with a longer gap when we return for the D5 block. But co-chairs, it's your choice.
I think we should bring him on, Carrie.
Yeah, I'm fine to keep going if he agrees.
Promote him up and find out.
Okay.
We could also sing happy birthday to Vice Chair Calmucci, who is spending his birthday with us today on the interviews.
I'm here and happy to go if that works for you guys, whatever's best.
Okay, fabulous.
All right, so we'll amend this to start at 11:06 and end at 11:16. Vice Chair Akbar, just note the time for your timekeeping purposes. Go ahead.
Okay, welcome, Matthew. We're doing D3 supervisorial candidate interviews. As you know, we're going to organize the time the following way. You have 1 minute opening statement, 8 minutes of questions, and then a 1 minute conclusion. And with that, I'd love to have you take the floor.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Susk, and I'm running for the Board of Supervisors because San Franciscans deserve safe streets, thriving businesses, and government accountability. I'm not a career politician. I'm a businessman who loves my hometown. Growing up right here in District 3, I developed a profound appreciation for San Francisco's unique culture and its unique challenges. I believe in public safety, cutting costs, and investing in our local economy, and I've got the record to prove it. I'm a proud graduate of the SFPD's Community Police Academy, where I spent 3 months learning about every division within the SFPD. I spent a decade in the private sector, advising government pension plans, founding a successful laundry business right here in San Francisco, and helping thousands of renters become homeowners. My family has lived here for generations, and I'm here today to make sure that San Francisco thrives for generations to come. Thank you so much, and I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you. I'm just going to build on what you mentioned, transit as an important safety issue in your district. District 3 has high injury streets, and if elected, how would you resolve this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and I hear it every day on the doors or calls. We'll start with some stats. So moving violations are down 97% in San Francisco. And I think we all saw that, and it was pretty jarring. I think for those of us that have been watching it for the last couple of years, we kind of knew that was coming. And I think that's number one. People don't have a deterrent right now. We see people go through stop signs all the time. We see people speed all the time, and we don't see anyone that's pulled over in this city anymore. And that's clearly backed by the data now. So I think it's vital that we start prioritizing moving violations in our city so that walkers feel safer, bikers feel safer, drivers feel safer in our city. And we can do that as we can help support the police department. We can do that. I mean, we've all heard fully fund, fully staffed, right? But we need to support. That's something we haven't had, and it's something that I will bring. So I think that's one area. Another area is, daylighting is a pretty obvious solution, to bring in so pedestrians feel safe. I think that we should massively expand the bus network. A lot of people call for an extension of the central subway. I don't think that's the right solution. I think that buses are the best solution. They're fast, they're affordable, and we can get them on the street quickly. So I think that's a great way where we can provide some safety as well. I'll pause there to make sure we can get some more questions. Thanks so much.
Member Elliott up here.
Thank you. Thanks, Carrie. Hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us this morning. A question that I've been asking the D3 candidates, the Port of San Francisco is within the jurisdiction of District 3, and so is the wharf, which is on port property. I'm just wondering what your thoughts might be to revitalize the wharf while working with an enterprise zone, which is the Port of San Francisco, and how the city might interact to get things moving a little bit down there, and what your priorities for the Port of San Francisco might be, since it's such a huge economic generator for the city.
Totally. I so appreciate it. I don't think the wharf gets enough love, unfortunately. So I feel very fortunate to have the support of lots of small businesses in the wharf. And I talk to them all the time. And you hear it, right? I mean, it's two things. And I'm sure we'll talk about this for the rest of our 7 minutes. Safe streets, right? That's what they want. You talk to them, they're being gutted right now. I mean, revenues are down 30%, not accounting for inflation. We're talking close 40 to 50% of small businesses. That's our tourist attractions, that's restaurants, that's bars, that's local retail. They're being absolutely gutted. So I think, you look at international travel, a lot of international travel's back, domestic travel, a lot of domestic travel's back. Regional travel to our city is not back. And I think that's an area where we really need to get serious on how to bring people back. And I think a lot of that is through safety. A lot of small business owners are on the front lines every day dealing with addiction, dealing with mental health, and they're the ones that have to be the resources that have to deal with that. And that can cause serious problems for their customers. So I think that's one. illegal street vending is a huge problem in the wharf that we don't talk about enough. I think we need to get rid of all illegal street vending in the wharf, and that needs to happen immediately. Second, there's a huge project that's being talked about right now, Pier 45. I feel very fortunate to be brought in on that. And it'd be really nice to have an amphitheater, really nice to have grass, but we need, whoever leads this district needs to understand the history of San Francisco. The fishing industry has been here for generations, and they do not feel like their voice is being heard on this issue. And I think it is vital that we listen to what they are saying to make sure the fishing industry, which is already going through tough times, does not have it layered on more and more and more. And then finally, the thing I want to talk about with the wharf is housing. We need more housing. You talk to small businesses, it's really hard to hire people. You walk through the wharf and there are parking lots galore and there are no cars. We need to build. There's underutilized space. I think the Kirkland bus yard is an area that we've been talking about for decades, wildly underutilized, and we can bring that in. And the last thing I'll say on the housing front is let's make Fisherman's Wharf a mecca for families. Let's build housing that supports families, not just studios, but how do you add 2-3 bedrooms so that families can come back to the city and not be priced out as soon as they get into their 30s and then move to the suburbs. Let's make this a city that supports our families. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. I have seeing no other questions. I'll continue. I have more of a big tent Democratic Party question for you. Unlike what we heard this week, climate change is real. And I wanted to know how, if elected, you would protect our environment and sustain San Francisco, the best city on earth, for future generations.
Yeah, it is the best city on earth. I agree with you. So yeah, I mean, protecting it is vital. I mean, I think the number one area is you look at sea level rise along the Embarcadero. I mean, that's something that will impact District 3 disproportionately, and something that we need to get serious on how we're going to invest to deal with that. And I think that when you look at a prime example, and back to Michaela's question, the ferry building, right? So now there's talk of trying to raise it up. And bringing in the Army Corps of Engineers to do that, like it's going to be very serious. What we can do is we continue to promote values that deal with climate change. And again, like I mentioned, my opener, or I guess my second question is buses. I think buses are a great way, electric fleet of buses. You can get them onto the streets within weeks. They cost $400,000 and you can utilize them versus extending a central subway, which can take decades. Or you look at Van Ness, let's not even do the central subway. You look at Van Ness, block a street for decades, literally billions of dollars over budget. They don't work that efficiently. And you look at the small businesses that are just gutted. You look in Chinatown, again, an area part of D3 where you extend a central subway and it affects them. I think buses are a great way where we can continue to support our climate change causes and make sure that San Francisco is a leader now and continues to be going forward.
Wonderful. We are concluding at 11:16. So for your 1-minute conclusion, but if you have time for a quick question, what do you see as the most pressing problem in your district and how would you resolve it?
Yeah, I'll answer and then go into the conclusion. So far and away, I mean, I spend hours every day knocking on doors and making calls. Like far and away, empirically, safe streets. Like that is the number one issue. I mean, we're talking 93%. I mean, we track it, right? 93% of people, that is the first thing they say, safe streets. We do see a lot of encouraging data, right? Like you look at the dashboards and it seems to be going down, which is fantastic. I worry that it's an election year and like we're investing in it because of that. We need to support our police officers. Absolutely. One thing I've been calling for that no one else in this race is I want to add 2 officers to our police commission. I want 1 active duty and 1 retired officer to our police commission. We need to get serious about supporting our police, and it needs to be long-term. It absolutely needs to be long-term. It can't just be a short-term solution in what's being politically convenient. I also call for expanding the first responder down payment assistance fund. My professional career has been in real estate, bringing renters to become homeowners. I want our first responders to be able to live in the communities that they serve, and we can do that by massively expanding that. The down payment is primarily the reason why people can't afford homes. They can afford the monthly rates, but not the down payment. We can do that. We can offer that as a service to our officers. So safety is the number one issue, and I have ways that I want to solve it. I'll quickly transition. So again, the one thing I want to say to you guys is thank you so much for everything you do. Like, I'm the outsider, I get it, like totally, but I think you guys are awesome. In the last couple of months, we've really seen so much positive change. And I think that's what San Francisco desperately needs right now. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I really appreciate the time this morning. Again, my name is Matt Susk. I'm a third generation San Franciscan. I'm running because San Franciscans deserve safe streets, thriving businesses, and government accountability. I really appreciate your time today. I hope you'll consider me for an endorsement, and I hope to engage with all of you more going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead.
This concludes the D3 candidates, of whom there were many. And I believe we are next on at 11:30. Is that correct, Bobak?
That is correct. We are on with the D5 block beginning at 11:30 with Mr. Scotty Jacobs. And then we have 3 more slots after that. And then you all have, after that, blocked a break for lunch. So I did text Mr. Jacobs, and I have not yet heard back, but
thank you.
He's got a little bit of time to get here. So for now, Mr. Susk, I will change you back to attendee. You're welcome to stick around, or it works. But we will have a brief intermission until we get to the D5 block. And I think Matt might have gotten frozen there, but it's okay. He's not a panelist anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for your patience with the slight technical challenges. Mr. Jacobs, I've promoted you up to panelist. We'll get you started right at 11:30. So sit tight.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Scotty. I'm Michaela Alioto-Peer. I'm your co-chair for today. I'll just wait for a couple of more people to jump on before we get started.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.
We have similar wood paneling in our offices.
Yes, although yours is
Yeah.
bright red.
Yeah, it's actually, it's orange and it shows up a little red though, which is not ideal when you're talking to a party who is obviously blue. So trust that it's much more orange than it looks on camera right now. But yeah.
Looks good.
We'll have to work on our Pantone chips in the future.
Okay. Member Alioto-Peer, just letting you know, I did remove Member Mahmood as a panelist for this section per your FAQ rules. When you're ready, go ahead and get us started.
Okay. Well, hello, Mr. Jacobs. Welcome to the interview for the DCCC 2024 endorsement. I am your co-chair, Michaela Alioto-Peer. I'm joined by my other co-chair, Carrie Barnes, and Cedric Akbar. Member Akbar will be keeping time for us today. We're going to start with a 1-minute opening, and then we will do 8 minutes of Q&A, and then time permitting, a final 1-minute conclusion. So with that, why don't I give you the floor for your opening?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you all. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you all this morning. I'm running for District 5 Supervisor as a 4th-generation resident of San Francisco, a member of the LGBTQ plus community, a renter who lives in a rent-controlled apartment, and most importantly, one of the youngest candidates across all of the supervisor races in San Francisco who believes in this city and is proud to be from this city. I know